One of the few unexplained things about what was going on with Paul was that in his house, and Bill Moore saw this too, there were these orange balls of light that would float around near the ceiling. And he said they were about maybe softball size, grapefruit to softball size, about like that. And they were transparent. And they had little kind of sparkles in them. And they would float around near the top of the ceiling, like where the ceiling joins the wall, go around in the corners, and kind of move slowly. And Bill saw one of these too. He looked up and said, "Hey, Paul, what's that?" And without even looking up, Paul said, "Oh, you see him too." It was just like a normal occurrence for him. I asked Rick Doty about this, and he goes, we broke in his house, and I saw those things too with some NSA guys. And I looked up and I said, "Is that one of yours?" They said, "No." "Is that one of yours?" "No."
He actually had a film, which few people ever, I don't think few people ever even knew he did this. But he actually had a film of himself sitting on the couch of a camera. It was an old, back then, 8mm style camera. And he was sitting on the couch, at his couch in his living room, narrating his contacts with these extraterrestrials. And how he did this, during this filming, there was a blur that came across behind him. He was sitting on a couch, and there was a wall behind him, and there was a space behind the back of the couch. Basically, it was against the wall, so there was that much space behind Paul's head and the wall, and that was part of the couch. There was actually some kind of a figure or some kind of a distortion that moved behind him, and Paul said, "They're here, and now we're going to communicate." But it was a one-way communication, because Paul was doing all the talking, and Paul was then relating what they were saying to him. That film, we convinced Paul to never disclose it, Paul. Number one, it would really damage his credibility, and we didn't want that to happen. Paul was a wonderful human being. I liked Paul, and we didn't want that. And I convinced Paul, you keep that, Paul. Lock that away. Don't show that to anybody. I said, if you go forward public with this, he wanted to go public with it. He wanted to take it down to the local television station and say, "Look what I filmed." And he actually had to set up an appointment. And that's when I convinced him, me and another person convinced Paul not to do that, Paul. And he never did it.
So what, and you yourself saw something blurring behind the sofa there?
We saw something. We don't know how he did it. Right. We think it was something that he created on his own. Maybe, and there were some experts that told us later that he could have had a light and a mirror and focused that mirror with that light and things. They could explain it away. Or it was some trick of the film. But we didn't believe it was an actual extraterrestrial.